Ar- Aretuza. 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 Oh my gosh. Hey and welcome back to the Ribbit Tuesday. My name's Ruben and this is my review for Season 3, Volume 1 and 2. It's been interesting. We got the 8 episodes. I know Volume 1 has just dropped today and then we get the last 3 episodes in July of this season. I'm going to be talking about whether that was a good idea. Non-spoiler review, let's jump in. As monarchs, mages and beasts of the continent compete to capture her, Geralt takes Ciri into hiding, determined to protect his newly reunited family against those who threaten to destroy it. Entrusted with Ciri's magical training, Yennefer leads them to the protected fortress of Aretuza. So every episode ranges from about 45 minutes to an hour long, and we get those first 5 episodes now, and then there's a, as the directors would say, a natural break at the end of episode 5. I can say right now that the moment that when you get to the end of episode 5, there's sort of cliffhanger, it picks up exactly on episode 6. And unfortunately, episode 6 is one of the best episodes of TV, never mind best episode of The Witcher I've seen in a long time, which still bogs the mind as to why they would split it up. I'll get back to that later. But for now, seeing Henry Cavill back as The Witcher just fills me with all good joy feelings because he is perfect for this role. It also leaves me bittersweet because it's the last time we're going to see him. I'm looking forward to what Liam Hemsworth is going to do with the role and will absolutely give him the time of day. But for now, I know Henry as Geralt of Rivia and Doug Cockle as the voice of Geralt of Rivia. But in this particular version, in this season 3, we see a lot more wordy Geralt. We see a lot more emotional Geralt, which I was surprised to see. It's not something that we've seen in the previous 2 helpings. I guess that there's been this transition and growing of the character. Season 3 works best when we see Yennefer, Ciri and Geralt together. When they are on this journey, when Geralt is training Ciri, when Yennefer is training Ciri, when they are a family unit, they have their own issues to work out in their relationships, and that comes from the books and the games. I think both, if you don't hold the lore too tightly, if you've played both of those, if you've played the game and you've read the books, I think you'll see things in here that I, for one, really appreciated, like nods to the original content, but also they're doing their own things. This is one of the reasons why Henry has left, apparently, because he didn't like how far they were steering from the character. At least that's what's been said online, not necessarily official. But for now, it works best when those 3 are together. The family unit, the training, when we get the monster kills, when we get Geralt fighting. Some of the best fight work you're likely to see, except for one moment when there's a slow-mo movement. It just felt really forced and I didn't like that. But when we see a wide shot with Geralt and his companions fighting, the magics that I use, the Witcher abilities, the mage's abilities, Ciri's abilities, their friends, when you see them fighting against whoever they're fighting, because it's going to go from Scoia'tael to bandits to bad mages, all of that is what they'll be fighting. Monsters as well, you know, the monster episode of the day. You're going to be getting that. That is when this works well. Unfortunately, this is a heavy dialogue exposition season. There's a lot of the politics that was always part of The Witcher, but now we're dealing with kings and queens. We're dealing with spy masters, very Game of Thrones in a way, but the dialogue just feels very dumping of exposition a lot of the time. You know, one of the first rules is show don't tell. It's a weird mixture because a lot of the time they are showing, they're intercutting with the journey that our characters are going on at the beginning, and then we're going back to the politics. Now, the first 2 episodes for me were really hard to get back into. I just wanted them always to be concentrating on our trio. I wanted the journey is where I was at. That for me was the best part of the storyline. So whenever they cut away, I just was like, oh, please, can we just go back? Then in episode 3, by halfway through, they really start getting into the arc of the story. And once again, we are reintroduced to some characters that we've seen, both good and bad, those that you love to hate, a new kind of characters that are coming into fruition of the characters that we've seen from the games and the books, which is great. I think the costume design is an outstanding element here, especially in the latter 3 episodes. If you played the game and read the books, you'll know that there is the Wild Hunt element storyline. They touch on that It's around. I'm not sure I like what they did with it. I think all the CGI and the special effects are great. I'm just not sure how they're introducing that into the world is the way I would have done it. But I also don't know how I would have done it because it's a tricky one to do. It is fun, but it takes its time getting there. It's a bittersweet season, and I don't like the fact that they've split it up into two. I know the directors have said they watched what Stranger Things did, and they thought, oh, there's a natural splitting, there's a moment. For me, I think that really hampers it, because even though there is a natural splitting, it's almost as if the 5 episodes are building to the action of the 3 episodes. Basically, is a change of pace. And as I mentioned before, episode 6 has some of the best action sequences throughout that episode. There's a lot happening. It's the build-up and the build-up of the 5 episodes between the politics and the journey and the adventure and the story coming into fruition with our 3, with Ciri always being hunted, trying to come into her own as a witcher, as a mage, as a human. She's trying to decide what person she wants to be, and really the whole story revolves around that character at the moment, everybody's motivations of how they want to use her, and Geralt just stuck in the middle of that, trying to play dad and protect her, as well as having this kind of broken relationship with Yennefer. That content, that storytelling all works fantastically. It's just that they've split it in 2. I love the last 3 episodes. I'm not particularly fond of how they ended episode 8. I was a little bit annoyed, but I can understand why they are doing that. It does feel like almost a filler season. There's like a stopgap. It almost feels like that for season 2 as well. They're building the world. They've built the world a lot. There's a lot happening between the politics, between the kings, between who's moving against who can trust who's betraying who is actually the bad guy behind the scenes controlling things. There's a lot of that. I do like the fact that we see a more vulnerable Geralt this time round. Between that of fighting, he sometimes isn't always the best in the room. Most of the time you think, well, he's overpowered, he's going to win this fight no matter what, even if he's fighting 20 guys. But there are moments in here where he's very, very vulnerable, between that of physical and emotional. I like that. It was nice to see that side of him. In fact, this is probably the best version of Geralt we've had so far, which makes it even worse, because as he's really grown that character, what are we going to get next? Because Liam Hemsworth is going to have his own take on it. So as we leave the end of episode 8, it does make me wonder how long it's going to be until we see the next season, and then will fans forget? Really, it's been 18 months until we saw this, another month until everybody sees the rest. It's a mixture of a feeling of a season for me, because the fantasy elements, the fighting, the monsters are great. The journey element of our 3 main protagonists is excellent. There are some side characters that are good, not awesome, and there are some forced storylines, and then there's the politics. So it's up and down for me. I think some of the production is excellent. The costumes, as I mentioned before, is really fun. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite episode in the first 5? Who's your favorite character apart from our 3 main protagonists? Because I think they're easy to follow because we spend the most time with them. Most people will say Jaskier, I guess, but there are other characters that are really interesting, that have great screen time. There is one particular action sequence that is a standout in the first 5 episodes, but it's definitely that episode 6, and the story of what happens in 7 and 8 is where you're hanging on for. So I'm going to give this 3.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5. I'm still thinking about the overall score, but as the season, I would say that's what it ranks for me. I can't really give any more details on volume 2 because it's not out and it's not fair to you guys. So suffice to say, it is definitely worth the wait. I do wish they'd put it all out together, but I can understand because of that natural break. Alright, let me know your thoughts and feelings once you've seen it. What did you think? But most of all, till next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.